So, what are you doing outside class to improve your English?
Speaking. I try to speak a lot. I talk English with Japanese friends. Only English.
Oh, cool. That's really good because sometimes it's really hard to speak English to people who speak the same language as you.
Yes. It's difficult to speak English.
Don't worry if you make mistakes when you're talking. It's important people understand you, and a few little mistakes often don't matter.
Okay. It is not easy to speak English. First, I think in Japanese and translate to English.
It will get easier. Just keep practicing your speaking a lot, okay?
Okay. But, I want to study listening this week. I want to watch DVD.
I think it's important to watch DVDs in English. Do you do that?
Yes, I like to. When I watch DVD, I can listen to English, natural English, and vocabulary and pronunciation.
So, when you watch DVDs, what do you do? Do you use the subtitles, or how do you do it?
Of course I use subtitles.
And do you watch all of the movie?
Yes.
Okay. What some students find really useful is to watch part of a movie. But you could watch this part 3 or 4 times. Just watch maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And so you're not watching the whole thing, just a short section. And the first time, why not listen for general meaning only? Don't try and understand everything. And the second time, listen and try to understand more detail, what each person's saying. And then, the third time, turn the subtitles on. Okay, so the first 2 times, watch it without subtitles. Okay? So then you'll be listening really carefully. And then after that you could listen again a 4th time and focus on vocabulary or pronunciation. So rather than watching the whole thing, it's still useful, but actually focus on a short section and watch it again and again and focus on different things each time. Does that sound useful?
Yes, it does. I'll try that.
So, welcome to English Studies International, everyone. Welcome to the school. My name is Anna, and I'm the Director of Studies. All right, so the first thing is, what's happening today? So, from 9 a.m. until 10:30, you'll do some tests. You'll have a written test that tests your grammar and your vocabulary, okay? You will also do a self-assessment. Self-assessment is you think about your level. You think about your speaking, your writing, your reading, your listening, and you decide your level. Now, it doesn't matter in what order you do the written test and the self-assessment. You can either do the test first or you can do the self-assessment first. You will also have an interview. That's speaking assessment. So you'll have a written test, a self-assessment and an interview. These 3 help us decide your level. All right, so that's from 9, and then after you've done the test at about 10:30, you can have a break. After the break at about 10:45, Rebecca will be waiting for you in reception to give you your books. At 11 o'clock, please come back here to the Learning Centre, and Stuart, the manager, will give you an introduction to the Learning Centre. At 11:30, you will meet Christine. Christine will talk to you about the social programme at English Studies International. These are all the activities that you can do after school. So that's until midday. Then at midday, I will come back. You will meet me again and I'll give you your timetables, your personal timetables that will tell you your class and your teacher and the rooms. Then you can have lunch in the canteen. During lunch, Berit will be in her office if any of you have accommodation problems. Then, this afternoon, you could either listen to a talk about London, or you could do a conversation class if you know London already. You will start your normal classes tomorrow morning.
Before we begin the first activity, I'd just like to talk about a few classroom rules, to help your learning. These are rules for all my students. Okay, so the first one, the most important rule, when you're in here, inside the classroom, you must speak English. You all have lots of different first languages, so it makes sense to use English to talk to each other. So, we've got 2 Italian speakers here. When you're in class, you must speak only in English. Okay? It's a really good way of getting more speaking practice. A second rule is about being on time in the morning. Lessons start at 9 o'clock, so you must get here on time. Before 9 is even better, so we can all start studying together. It's not really very polite to arrive 20 minutes late because it disturbs the people who did come on time. It makes things hard for your classmates. And another thing, mobile phones. You mustn't use your mobile during the lesson. Again, it's not very polite. In fact, please turn your phone off completely during the lesson.
OK, Mayuki, here's an advice sheet that will help you. First, you need to set some goals. You need to think about what you need to do in English. You've said that speaking and listening are important for you, so think in a bit more detail about what kinds of speaking and listening are important for you. So, for speaking, for example, do you need to talk on the telephone or in everyday conversations? And for listening, what sort of things do you want to listen to? The news? Seminars? Presentations? So, think about your speaking and listening in more detail. So, for you, what are your goals?
My main goal is to talk to foreign visitors easily when they visit our company. I need to talk about my job. I also want to talk to people when I go overseas on holiday.
OK, good. Next, you need to find things to help you reach your goals. Find material. Use listening and speaking books in the Self-Access Centre. Conversation groups, friends, lots of things help. I'll show you some things later.
OK.
And then, once you're studying, once you're actually using those things, you need to stop and think about your learning. Ask yourself questions about what you've done. What did you learn? Maybe you learned a lot, or maybe you didn't learn anything new. How useful was it? If it was useful, then you will probably use it again. Do you need to change anything? If it wasn't useful, you need to decide if you will do things differently next time. You might want to make it a little bit easier next time, or more interesting. You need to stop and think about what you studied. OK?
OK.
If you do this, it will make your learning a lot better and a lot easier. PISA is an international study which tests 15-year-old students from around the world to compare the standard of education in different countries. Over recent years, some countries have suffered a so-called PISA shock. PISA shock is where rich countries, such as Japan and the US, perform surprisingly badly in the PISA tests, which then causes a lot of debate about the education system. For example, Japan changed its education policies because of their lower scores in 2003. Another response to PISA shock has been to visit Finland because they generally do very well in the PISA tests. In fact, so many people have been to Finland to study the education system, it is sometimes called PISA tourism. So, in this lecture, I'm going to tell you more about the Finnish education system and explain its 3 key values. Firstly, equal opportunities for all. Secondly, showing trust. And thirdly, encouraging learning for life. So let's look at equal opportunities. All education in Finland is free at all levels, and rich and poor mix in the same schools. Most students stay in the same local school, usually the one nearest to their home, from the ages of 7 to 16. There is very little difference between schools in terms of standards, and the schools themselves never use streaming. Streaming, which is similar to setting, is where students in the same year at school are divided into groups of a similar level or ability, and those groups stay together for all lessons. The idea of streaming is that if all the students in the class are of a similar ability, teachers can give the right level of help for students to improve. In Finland, all the teaching is in mixed-level groups. However, every pupil has the right to get extra individual attention, and many students have some one-to-one classes at school. There is also some evidence that having mixed-level groups helps weaker students. Certainly, in Finland, the difference between the best and worst students is very small. The second value is trust. Both students and teachers are given the freedom to do their jobs. Students have very little homework and are trusted to learn for themselves. For teachers, there is a general guide to what must be covered in class, but they have a lot of choice about what to teach. Unlike some countries, the government doesn't judge individual teachers or schools. It sets some tests for students to check the general standard of learning, but it doesn't use these tests to compare the best and worst schools. Teachers are trusted to check students' progress and find ways to help students who are struggling. Part of the reason they are trusted is that all teachers have to have a master's, and they do courses and training all through their teaching career. The idea of learning for life is the third important part of the Finnish education system. In other words, encouraging people to see learning as important for their whole life. Finns see the first few years of childhood as being the essential time to create an interest in learning. Parents are given free books to read to their young children. There is also free nursery education, with lots of activities and play that encourage children to explore the world around them. Children start primary school and lessons in reading and writing when they are 7. The hope is that by this stage they feel positive about learning. The 3 values of equality of opportunity, trust, and learning for life can now be seen in a new kind of teaching which is being used in Finland, called phenomenon-based learning. Phenomenon-based learning is very similar to topic-based teaching. It's where students don't have lessons in a traditional subject like physics or history, but instead study a phenomenon or topic, such as sound or love. When the students explore the topic, they usually cover several different subject areas. For example, the topic of sound might include physics, maths, music, and biology, even drama. Students are often trusted to choose the topics, and the teacher guides the students so they cover everything they need to know. Many countries will be watching to see how successful these changes are. There is very little difference between schools in terms of standards, and the schools themselves never use streaming. Streaming, which is similar to setting, is where students in the same year at school are divided into groups of a similar level or ability, and those groups stay together for all lessons. The idea of streaming is that if all the students in the class are of a similar ability, teachers can give the right level of help for students to improve. The three values of equality of opportunity, trust, and learning for life can now be seen in a new kind of teaching which is being used in Finland called phenomenon-based learning. Phenomenon-based learning is very similar to topic-based teaching. It's where students don't have lessons in a traditional subject like physics or history, but instead study a phenomenon or topic, such as sound or love. When the students explore the topic, they usually cover several different subject areas. For example, the topic of sound might include physics, maths, music, and biology, even drama.
A couple of years ago, I was working on a project about journeys for a magazine. And then I heard about the amazing journeys some kids make on their way to school. Some are really dangerous. After I had taken the first photo, I decided to find out a little bit more about the kids and where they went to school. The first one I took in the Philippines, and it was early in the school year. I had heard about children crossing a fast river to get to school, but seeing it was completely different. The children are very young and go to the primary school in the village. I'm not sure where they will go to school when they are secondary school age. One boy was very small, and he looked so scared as he crossed the river with his brother. I think he was in year 1, so age 6. I wonder what qualifications these children will end up getting and what jobs they'd like to do. In the next picture, I was doing a trek in the Sichuan province in southern China when I noticed some children ahead of me. They were climbing up ladders that went straight up the mountain. I had heard that the ladders were made of wood before, but now they are made of steel and so they are safer. The children attend a school which is on the other side of the mountain. Fortunately, the children can live at the boarding school, and so they don't have to do this journey every day. The children and their parents will want them to do well and to go on to university and get a degree. And in this last picture, I was in Kashmir, India, staying with my friend. We had been undergraduates together at the University of Cambridge. Anyhow, it had been raining a lot. The children had 2 more weeks before they broke up for the holidays, but they had exams. So they had to get to school. One young teen I spoke to afterwards thought he had done badly in his exams. The children were so keen to get to school. It seems that education is a priority for this community.
Classrooms around the world. Last month on TeacherWeb, we asked you to tell us about the most interesting classrooms you've ever taught in. We received hundreds of replies from teachers around the world. Here is a selection of our favourite stories. Jack.
When I was looking for somewhere to teach English as a foreign language, I decided to apply for a school that was far away. However, this place was definitely further than I had imagined, and I never thought that a school classroom could be in a cave. It was a really unusual place to have a school. The families of a Chinese village had built the school, known as Middle Cave Elementary School, in the cave about 50 years before. They had transported the materials for the school furniture up the mountain. It took days, and then they made the tables and chairs by hand. Children come from many different places around the area and walk up a stone path to reach the school every day. I arrived at the school in early April to teach English conversation, and I helped the music teacher. There were always 2 teachers, which I enjoyed. Having these lessons in a cave was incredible because of the sound produced inside caves. The classroom made music by itself.
Katie.
I wasn't sure what to do in the summer after I left school and before I went to university. Then I found out by accident about a teaching program in Samoa for 3 months. I'd never worked with children before, so I was a bit nervous. But when I walked into the classroom, the children were so welcoming. Our classroom was fairly ordinary, with desks and a blackboard. There were hardly any computers, but the walls were covered with colourful pictures and writing, mostly in English. I had an amazing time at the school, helping the class teacher and teaching some classes myself. The teacher had the most beautiful wooden chair that her grandfather had made for her by hand to celebrate her first job. It was a very different school to the one that I'd attended back home. I thought that the children all worked really hard and they mostly did well in their exams.
Georgie.
I had a very special experience when I went to this school in Cuba a few years ago. 3 years earlier, the parents and teachers had built several outdoor classrooms for the summer terms. They had spent a lot of time talking about the design of the classrooms, and eventually they decided to have lots of different classroom areas. There was a classroom in the vegetable garden, there was another one surrounded by trees, and there was even a classroom in a rose garden. Although there were a couple of sunflowers that someone had planted by mistake. The parents had put a lot of effort into making their children's learning a good experience. I think the children enjoyed it because they didn't feel as if they were in a classroom. However, I was teaching maths, and I found I missed having a whiteboard.
Summer Camp. Our guide to unusual ways to spend your summer.
A. Robotics Camp. Robotics Camp is fun and educational all at the same time. Students choose to work alone or in pairs to build and program a robot. With sessions for different levels of ability, you'll learn how to use the right software and how to construct your robot. Please note that students are not allowed to keep any of the materials used at the camp.
B. Camp Biz Smart. At Camp Biz Smart, we'll give you all kinds of tips about starting and running your own business. You'll get experience in working with successful people and working in teams. You'll graduate from camp with your own business plan ready to go. One recent visitor said she had learnt more in a week here than in a year at her school.
C. Kids Culinary Academy. Kids Culinary Academy is perfect for young people who either want to learn the basics or develop their skills. Each day is a new adventure in learning about a different type of cuisine. It is easy to enroll, and our excursions in the local area include trips to well-known foodie destinations as well as other tourist attractions.
D. Camp Kids and Comedy. If you want to put up a tent, climb trees, and learn how to survive in the wild, then Camp Kids and Comedy isn't for you. But if you're full of opinions, we'll take you and turn you into a confident performer. Our experts will help you write material and practice your show. You'll soon have the audience laughing.
E. Camp Jam. From songwriting to playing as a band, Camp Jam will guide you every step of the way. You'll perform live and make recordings that are yours to keep. Not only that, but we'll also teach you all you need to know about getting more fans and surviving in the music industry.
F. Plantation Farm Camp. We all need a break from our smartphones. And Plantation Farm Camp offers exactly that. With no electricity, the camp allows young people to get away from the pressures of their online lives and make friendships that last a lifetime. By growing and preparing your own food, you'll connect with nature and with each other.
G. Camp Can Aqua. Camp Can Aqua is the perfect place to learn water sports. Students select different activities each day to develop their own individual skills. You'll also get the chance to go on a 3-day canoe trip, where you'll learn to rely on those around you. Older students can attend leadership camps, where they may get a certificate in important skills.
H. Hollywood Stunt Camp. You need to be fit for Hollywood Stunt Camp. You'll need all your energy as you learn how to fall, fight, and jump off a building. Professionals will take you all the way from the basics to appearing in a short movie. The camp ends with a stunt show where you can show off what you've learnt.